Got it. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Forgiving the Girl Inside, a Matter of the Heart. Today, I have the beautiful Nicole Miller with us sharing her healing journey story. Before she was on a path of true healing, she was in this, she's going to challenge me with these big words. You know how I am with big words. Let me know how I do, Nicole.
Okay.
Tumultuous.
Tumultuous.
Tumultuous. See that? Tumultuous. Say that 3 times fast, real fast. See how well you do.
Tumultuous,
Toxic relationship. I love a challenge too. Tumultuous, tumultuous, tumultuous. It's almost like tomato. But she kept going into these toxic relationships, one after the other, And I can so resonate with that. These toxic relationships, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a love relationship. It could be a relationship with a boss, a coworker, maybe even you get into a toxic relationship with, somebody who's giving you personal services like a hairdresser or massage therapist or somebody. So open up your minds. Don't just think of the old love relationships when we think of toxicity in our lives. So she thought it was bad luck. And we all know there's no such thing as luck, right? So do you get to choose your luck? Do you get to choose your destiny? Do you get to choose your relationships? We're going to find out. So thanks for joining us. We are on this healing journey with Nicole. So tell us, Nicole, thank you so much for being here as a guest. So tell us a little bit more about this bad luck, good luck that you had with these toxic relationships. What was life like for you when you were in the heat of that moment, those moments?
Thank you for having me. Yes. I felt like anything bad that would happen to me or that could happen to me would happen to me. So I was always looking at the negative, and I think I was attracting that in my relationships, like you said, boss, love, friendships. And so I went through my life until I was almost 35 years old, just constantly thinking that I was the world's whipping post and that if anything bad that could happen, it's going to happen to me. When I was in my worst domestic violence situation and I was almost killed in front of my kids, I was in a courtroom having to defend myself from my abuser because the state had given me money to escape him. And he hauled me into court to say that I had done dishonest things with this money. And so I had to defend and show receipts that I did use that money to leave that situation. When I left that courtroom, I thought, my gosh, it's just drama constantly, and not the good drama. It was always bad. Like if Lifetime could make a movie, my life has many movies. And so I thought to myself, what can I do? I am a Christian woman and I pray a lot, and I would pray, Lord, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Well, the thought that popped up was, you know what you haven't tried? Thinking positively, changing your mindset, doing that. Start there and see what you can't lose. So that's what I chose to do. Was I'm going to start looking at every negative, searching for the positive, and changing my mindset to change my life. And that's exactly what happened.
Captivating your thoughts and making them obedient to Christ is a huge game changer. Mindset is the crux of all that we do. It's a matter of the heart. And when we can receive our thoughts and think about them, what kind of an emotion, what kind of a feeling does that create in your body? And how are you responding? This head, heart, hand connection, it gets you a new result when you start to do things differently. So it took you, how long were you in that turmoil and this toxicity? I mean, in this abusive relationship where you finally said, this is enough. I can't take it anymore.
Well, the thing is that from the time I was a small child, there was always a toxic relationship in my life. And I'm not talking just a little toxic. I mean, high levels of abuse and toxicity. And so that particular relationship only lasted a couple years. And I prided myself that I would get rid of these toxic people after only, I would cut the timeline. My last toxic relationship was 4 years. This one was only 2 years, but it was the level of how toxic it would get, and that I would allow that because I, at that time, didn't really know what I was looking for and what is really the red flags, if you will. So I think that once I decided to change my mindset, I also then educated myself on those red flags. And it has changed my life and changed even my friend groups, my work groups. It's changed everything.
Oh yeah, a new perspective. When you had, did you think you deserved it? Like when you said you cut the time in half, every single relationship that you had gotten into. So as you became more aware of it, you identified it sooner, you were able to walk away sooner. But what made you first learn how to identify it, to say, I know a lot of times women, especially in toxic relationships, will say, well, I deserve it. Or they're so used to the pattern because this is how they were treated at home, or they were abandoned, or this was happened, or they feel like their self-love and their self-worth and their self-value, their self-esteem is so low.
Mm-hmm.
Any attention is good attention. Did you
Mm-hmm.
ever feel that way?
Actually, I used to hear that's, in my therapy, they would say, that's what you're used to, so that's what you gravitate towards. I really didn't gravitate toward that. I was gravitating toward what they were selling me in the front end. They're always so good to you, and when they draw you in and then they want to break you down. So I had to recognize that I didn't have any self-confidence at all. Like if something bad happened to me, I took it on as it was my fault. And I had to really stop doing that. I don't know how I actually viewed myself for most of my life. I think I just kind of floated and just existed. And then these people gravitated toward me. And once I realized that I had to work on me and my self-confidence, then I could say, okay, there's something wrong with you. Do you know what I mean? To kind of recognize those red
Yeah,
flags.
absolutely. Because you can't, you can't have a relationship with other people if you're not happy inside. If your heart's unhappy, you almost project that. When we talk
Mm-hmm.
about the energy that we have, and you can change the mood of a room by walking in and smiling and saying hi. It totally
Mm-hmm.
changes the person's demeanor, whoever you're with. But if you're in, especially like if you're in a narcissist relationship, or a gaslighter or something, or somebody who's just hurt people, hurt others.
Mm-hmm.
So having a therapist say that you gravitate towards them, or it's almost like you're
It's
a magnet, you're
familiar.
pulling them in. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, wait a minute,
Right.
how you're supposed to be my therapist? How am I supposed to change this?
Mm-hmm.
That's a
And a
long
lot of times
time.
your therapists are just speaking from a textbook standpoint, and they're not really in
Mhm.
it. When you're in it, what you're looking for is, the reason you stay so long is you're looking for them to treat you the way they did in the beginning. You were so
Right.
sweet to me. You were that person. Why won't you come back? And you have to realize in yourself, they're lost. So you need to move on, have courage, and say, no, it's not me. They're trying to drag me in, not the other way around. I don't want to be drug in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've spoken to a lot of the guests on my podcast have experienced similar things, and most of them have come to the realization that you need to draw a circle and stand in the center and say, okay, I can't change you, but I can certainly change me,
Mm-hmm.
and not to give someone else permission to treat you that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the key here, I think, is recognizing it so that you don't avoid it. So what were some of the things that made you think it was okay that this person was treating you like so? How would you recognize if somebody watching this is in this type of relationship, or they just got out of this type of relationship, they want to avoid it again? How do you recognize if this person is a toxic person? Because you're saying that they're wooing you, they're doing all the right things, and you're falling for it. So what makes a woman not strong enough to say, wait a minute, something's not right? Like they're being too nice. Like, how do you get out of that victim mode to say, hey, this happened to me instead of for me?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I recognize this in the future so that I don't end up with this job, with this, with this crazy boss, or, I'm not into this toxic relationship in any aspect of my life?
So what I say is I write down, because sometimes if you put it into writing, you won't forget. If you verbalize, sometimes we verbalize things. This is what I need, want, and these are my boundaries. But then as we're in a relationship with a boss, friend, or lover, sometimes we forget what our own boundaries are. So I say, write down deal breakers. This is a deal breaker. 5 things. If these people do this to cross over and harm me emotionally, physically, or what have you, this is a deal breaker. If they ask for forgiveness, give them one more chance. Everybody deserves forgiveness. People can change. I don't believe in you can't change. I'm not the same person I was 30 years ago. You can change, but not everybody wants to change. So if you can put those boundaries down and somebody crosses over them and they say, well, I'm sorry, but you're noticing that they're only sorry because you being in their life is beneficial to them, then you need to say, okay, no, it has to be a two-way street. It can't be just one-sided.
Exactly. I love that. And the writing it down is really powerful. Something about pen and paper, it just totally changes the way we view things. And I would like to take that one step further. When you write it down, think about the ideal person you want to be with, you want to mate with, you want to have a boss for, like, maybe you want to be self-employed. But whatever that dream is, write down what you want, what your future self wants, and then reverse engineer it. So then okay, this is what I'm looking for. And I want a strong Christian man who loves the Lord more than anything else. I want, somebody who's, I can talk to and approach, and whatever those qualities are. And most likely they're going to be very similar to what your qualities are, your values.
Yep. Keeping it simple and realistic. I mean, I want a millionaire. Well, okay, so don't we all, but keeping it simple and realistic. I want respect because I give respect. I want, to be paid well because I give 110%. I want to be valued because I bring a lot to value,
Right.
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
And yeah, when you're joy filled within yourself and you know what you really want, what's going to make your heart happy, and then making that list. And sometimes it's going to take more than just one sitting to do it. Think about how long it took to get out of that mess, how you got into that mess, getting down to the root cause of it. And I know you have programs, but in my program, Divine Heart Alignment, we get down, I have a 7 deep flip, and we get down to the root cause of what's our why are we doing something, and then flipping it, taking that negative, turning into positive, and really knowing what our heart wants and having that joy unspeakable and that peace beyond understanding. And for Christians, I know a lot of times we have the book answer, but we don't have that relationship, and we're not really connecting. We go to church, we read the Bible, we do all the things, but it's like a checklist. It becomes almost robotic. And we have to stop and say, no, this is about a relationship. This is about me connecting with the Lord and saying, okay, Lord, your will, your way, let me connect with you. And I want to live for you, because, what's going to happen if I just keep getting in my own way, and all that pride keeps getting in my own way. You had mentioned forgiveness, which this is forgiving the girl inside. It's forgiving yours truly. A lot of people in my audience look in the mirror and can't forgive themselves for past mistakes, shame and guilt, whatever it is they may be dealing with. What does forgiveness mean to you when you say you forgive? You can forgive that person. What does that mean to you?
What it means to me is that I may not forget the things that they have done or said, but moving forward, I can sit down and say, hey, this is how I feel. And if I get a response back that is positive to continue, I can forgive so that I can go on with my life and I'm not stuck running in place. I feel like if you don't forgive yourself and you don't forgive others that have wronged you, then you're stuck running in place, stuck in the past. And when you stay stuck in the past, you find yourself being unfulfilled and unhappy. So to be able to say, I forgive you and mean it and let it go is to really put that first foot forward to a better future, definitely.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And that's it. It's so simple. It's so simple we miss it. I hear so many people say, well, I refuse to forgive. I'm never going to forgive, so-and-so.
Yeah.
And it's like, Well, you're only hurting yourself because you're
Yeah.
holding on to that pain, and it takes more energy to hold on to that pain than it does to let go so you can move forward. And it's so simple. I forgive you, done, move on. And
Yeah.
no, it doesn't give that person permission to hurt you again. You're never going to forget. And I've done things that I'm never going to forget, but as I process them and as I forgive myself and grieve and move forward and understand how I am forgiven, because God forgives me, I can forgive myself.
Mhm.
It doesn't, I'm still going to get triggered, but it's not going
Mhm.
to hurt as much because
Yep.
I've examined it and I've understood it. I know my part, and we can never go back and change what happened. We can't change those circumstances, but we can certainly change our perspective. So what's your passion? What's your purpose here on earth?
My purpose here on earth, I hope, is to inspire people that have been through it, who've been through the bad, because I do have a giant story, and it stems back from even before I was born. You are treated the way people learn and are raised to treat others. And so I hope to inspire people to say, hey, you may be stuck in a bad situation. You may be going through hell, but that doesn't mean your whole life has to be hell. You can get through it and you can move on and you can live a fulfilled, better, and happy life, a truly happy life. So that's my hope for being on this earth.
Do you offer a program or courses, or what do
I
you
am
offer?
still in the processes of creating that. I have a Facebook page called Nicole the Content Contessa, where I do share stories and I share business advice, especially when it comes to being in a toxic relationship, so personal or business, on how to identify whether you're in a toxic relationship and how to kind of change that path for yourself to finding true absolute happiness and peace. So I'm still in the stages of.
Yeah. Well, it's great to get started on your mission. What inspired you to begin this?
um I mean, I guess being in the childhood that I was in, I was locked in my room. My mom was an alcoholic, so was her boyfriend. I was mistreated by both of them, him more so. And then as I grew, my mother and I had a terrible relationship, and it just got worse even into my 30s. And during all those dark, dark times, I used to think, okay, you're going through this for a reason. And so reconnecting with some of my high school friends, one of them is a motivational speaker. Her name is Wendy Babcock. And she knew my life and she was on the stage and she was showing me that, hey, man, you can do it. And she also said, you need to share your story. And so her encouragement is really what's kind of gotten me into this whole avenue. So,
Awesome. Well, I love that you're listening to your heart and
yeah.
God's direction as to reaching out and helping other women who have similar stories to yourself, because it's so needed out there. We need to know that we're not alone. So
Mhm.
I will we'll put the link to Nicole's group in the description. And if you know anybody that would benefit from hearing this, from hearing Nicole's story, please share it with them. And thank you so much, Nicole, for being here.
And Lisa, thank you for sharing your story. I listened to your story as well. And thank you so much for being like myself and speaking up and saying, hey, it's all about forgiving you first. You know what I mean? So I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sharing our stories is one of the hardest things that we do, because it just, there's a lot of shame and guilt for things that we've done in the past. And I know for me, it took almost until I was 40 years old before I can even grasp what a feeling was. And to be able to share my story took a lot of healing and a lot of work. And through the grace of God, when he asked me to share my story in my book, Forgiving the Girl Inside, of Finding Balance, Freedom, and Fun, I was like, what? No, I'm not doing that. You want me to tell people I had 2 abortions? No way. I swore I would never tell. And,
Yeah.
the title of this show is Never Say Never, and that resonated. I told Nicole before we hopped on that resonated with me, because there was things I said I would never do. I would never, ever live with a man. I lived with my husband before we got married. I would never, ever, lose my virginity before I got married. I would never, ever. I mean, I had this whole list from when I was a kid, and I broke all these rules. and to come forward. And, I was so shameful and so guilty. And when I looked in the mirror, I saw like this darkness and this blackness. And to be here in this format and to share this way, I look back, it started in August of 20, and I'm like, wow, the Lord's really changed my heart and moved our hearts. And yours as well. You're like, if you think back of where you were, you said it was around the 35 mark. There's something special between
There's
35
something
and 40
special
that
about that mark.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, 40 is a great number in the Bible. And, that's the purification. That's, 40 years in the desert, 40 days in the desert. There's something
Yeah.
special about 40. Definitely a cleansing period. So remember, you are not alone. There are so many women who have shared their stories. Go through the past podcasts, listen. If Nicole's story resonates with you, reach out to her. And if my story resonates, reach out. We are here to support. It's a safe place. There's no judgment. We just want you to find that unspeakable joy. And it comes when you ask God to be your CEO, when you captivate your thoughts, make them obedient to Christ, and you just start celebrating and giving thanks in all circumstances, because everything we've been through, there's a purpose, there's a message in our mess. And remember, it's all a matter of the heart.